Hi, it's me, storyteller Mitch again. I am reading. We're at chapter 8 now of Queer. Notice I got lipstick on. My mouth was feeling dry, so I was like, fuck it. Okay. I'm gonna try and read more this weekend because I'm feeling well enough to. Chapter 8. From Manta they flew on to Guayaquil. I probably butchered that. Guayaquil? I'm gonna say Guayaquil that's my guess. The road was flooded, so the only way to get there was by plane or boat. Guayaquil was built along a river, a city with many parks and squares and statues. The parks are full of tropical trees and shrubs and vines. A tree that fans out like an umbrella, as wide as it is tall, shades the stone benches. The people do a great deal of sitting. One day Lee got up early and went to the market. The place was crowded, a curious mixed populace. Negro, Chinese, Indian, European, Arab, characters difficult to classify. Lee saw some beautiful boys of mixed Chinese and Negro stock, slender and graceful, with beautiful white teeth. A hunchback with withered legs was playing crude bamboo panpipes, a mournful oriental music with the sadness of the high mountains. In deep sadness there is no place for sentimentality. It is as final as the mountains. It is as final as the mountains. A fact. There it is, when you realize you cannot complain. People crowded around the musician, listened a few minutes, and walked on. Lee noticed a man with a skin tight over his small face, looking exactly like a shrunken head. He could not have weighed more than 90 pounds. The musician coughed from time to time. Once he snarled, then someone touched his hump, showing his black, rotten teeth. Lee gave the man a few coins. He walked on, looking at every face he passed, looking into doorways and up the windows of cheap hotels. An iron bedstead painted light pink, a shirt out to dry, scraps of life. Lee snapped at them hungrily like predatory fish cut off from his prey by a glass wall. He could not stop ramming his nose against the glass in the nightmarish search of his dream, and at the end he was standing in a dusty room in the late afternoon sun, with an old shoe on his hand. The city, like all Ecuador, produced a curiously baffling impression. Lee felt there was something going on here, some undercurrent of life that was hidden from him. This was the area of the ancient Chimu pottery, where salt shakers and water pitchers were nameless obscenities. Two men on all fours, engaged in sodomy, formed the handle for the top of a kitchen pot. What happens when there is no limit? What is the fate of the land where anything goes? Men changing in the huge centipedes besieging the houses. A man tied to a couch, and a centipede then feet long, rearing up over him. Is this literal? Did some hideous metamorphosis occur? What is the meaning of the centipede symbol? Lee got on the bus and rode into the end of the line. He took another bus. He rode out to the river and drank the soda, and watched some boys swimming in the dirty river. The river looked as if nameless monsters might rise from the green-brown water. Lee saw a lizard 2 feet long run up the opposite bank. He walked back towards town. He passed a group of boys on a corner. One of the boys was so beautiful that the image cut Lee's senses like the wire whip. A light involuntary sound of pain escaped from Lee's lips. He turned around as though looking at the street name. The boy was laughing at some joke, a high-pitched laugh, happy and gay. Lee walked in. 6 or 7 boys, aged 12 to 14, were playing in a heap of rubbish on the waterfront. One of the boys was urinating against the post and smiling at the other boys. The boys noticed Lee, now there. Hold on a sec. Now their play was overtly sexual, with an undercurrent of mockery. They looked at Lee and whispered and laughed. Lee looked at them openly, a cold, hard stare of naked lust. He felt tearing ache of limitless desire. He focused on one boy, the image sharp and clear, as if seen through the telescope with other boys, and the waterfront blacked out. The boy vibrated with life like a young animal. A wild grin showed sharp white teeth. Under the torn shirt, Lee glimpsed the thin body. He could feel himself in the body of the boy. Fragmentary memories, a smell of cocoa beans drying in the sun, bamboo tenements, the warm, dirty river, the swamps, and rubbish heaps on the outskirts of the town. He was with the other boys sitting on the stone floor of a deserted house. The roof was gone, the stone walls were falling down, weeds and vines grew over the walls and stretched across the floor. The boys were taking down their torn pants. Lee lifted his thin buttocks to slip down his pants. He could feel the stone floor. He had his pants down to his ankles. His knees were clasped together, and the other boys were trying to pull them apart. He gave in. They held his knees open. He looked at them and smiled and slipped his hand down his stomach. Another boy who was standing up dropped his pants and stood there with his hands on his hips, looking down at his erect organ. A boy sat down by Lee and reached over between his legs. Lee felt the orgasm black out in the hot sun. He stretched out and threw his arm over his eyes. Another boy rested his head on his stomach. Lee could feel the warmth of the other's head, itching a little where the hair touched Lee's stomach. Now he was in a bamboo tenement. An oil lamp lit a woman's body. Lee could feel desire for the woman through the other's body. I'm not queer, he thought. I'm disembodied. Lee walked on, thinking, what can I do? Take them back to my hotel? They are willing enough, for a few sucres. He felt a killing hate for the stupid, ordinary, disapproving people who kept him from doing what he wanted to do. Someday I'm going to have things just like I want, he said to himself, and if any moralizing son of a bitch gives me any static, they will fish him out of the river. Lee's plan involved the river. He lived on the river and ran things to please himself. He grew his own weed and poppies and cocaine, and he had a young native boy for an all-purpose servant. Boats were moored in the river. Great masses of water hyacinths floated by. The river was a good half-mile across. Lee walked up to a little park. There was a statue. Being hard to turn. Okay. Of Bolivar. The liberating fool, as Lee called him, shaking his hands with someone else. Both of them looked tired and disgusted and rocking queer, so queer it rocked you. Lee stood looking at the statue, then he looked down at a stone bench facing the river. Everyone looked at Lee when he sat down. He looked back. He did not have an American reluctance to meet the gaze of a stranger. The others looked away, lit cigarettes and resumed their conversations. Lee sat there looking at the dirty yellow river. He couldn't see half an inch under the surface. From time to time, a small finch jumped ahead of a boat. They were trim, expensive sailing boats from the yacht club, with hollow masts and beautiful lines. They were dugout canoes with onboard motors and cabins of split bamboo. 2 old rusty battleships were moored in the middle of the river. The Ecuadorian Navy. Lee sat there a full hour, then got up and walked back to the hotel. It was 3 o'clock. Allerton was still in bed. Lee sat down on the edge of the bed. It's 3 o'clock, Jean. Time to get up. What for? You want to spend your life in bed? Come on out and dig the town with me. I saw some beautiful boys in the waterfront. The real uncut boy stuff. Such teeth, such smiles, young boys vibrating with life. All right, stop drooling. What have they got that I want, Jean? Do you know? No, they have a me illness, of course, so have I. I want myself the same way I want others. I'm disembodied. I can't use my own body for some reason. He put out his hand. Allerton dodged away. What's the matter? I thought you were going to run your hand down my ribs. I wouldn't do that. Think I'm queer or something? Frankly, yes. You do have nice ribs. Show me the broken ones. Is that it there? Lee ran his hand halfway down Allerton's ribs. Or is it further down? Oh, go away. But Jean, I'm due, you know. Yes, I suppose you are. Of course, if you'd rather wait until tonight. These tropical nights are so romantic. That way we could take 12 hours or so and do the thing right. Lee ran his hands down over Allerton's stomach. He could see that Allerton was a little excited. Allerton said, Maybe it would be better now. You know, I like to sleep alone. Yes, I know. Too bad. If I had my way, we'd sleep every night, all wrapped up around each other like hibernating rattlesnakes. Lee was taking off his clothes. He lay down beside Allerton. Wouldn't it be booful if we should just run together into the great big blob? He said in baby talk. Am I giving you the horrors? Indeed you are. Allerton surprised Lee by an unusual intensity of response. At the climax he squeezed Lee hard around his ribs. He sighed deeply and closed his eyes. Lee smoothed his eyebrows with his thumbs. Do you mind that? He asked. No, not terribly. But you do enjoy it sometimes. The whole deal, I mean. Oh, yes. Lee lay on his back with one cheek against Allerton's shoulder and went to sleep. Lee decided to apply for a passport before leaving Guayaquil. He was changing clothes to visit the embassy and talking to Allerton. Wouldn't do to wear high shoes. The consul is probably an elegant pansy. My dear, can you believe it? High shoes. I mean real old button hooky shoes. I simply couldn't take my eyes off those shoes. I'm afraid I have no idea what he wanted. I hear they are purging the State Department of queers. If they do, they will be operating with a skeleton staff. Ah, here they are. Lee was putting on a pair of... Ah, here we are. Here they are. Lee was putting on a pair of low shoes. Imagine walking in on the consul and asking him right out for money to eat on. He hears back and claps the scented handkerchief over his mouth, as if he would drop the dead lobster on his desk. You're broke. Really, I don't know why you come here with me with this... Come to me with this revolting disclosure. You might show a modicum of consideration. You must realize how distasteful this sort of thing is. Have you no pride? Lee turned to Allerton. How do I look? Don't want to look too good, and he will try to get in my pants. Maybe you'd better go. That way we'll get our passports by tomorrow. Listen to this. Lee was reading from a Guayaquil paper. It seems that the Peruvian delegates at the Anti-Tuberculosis Congress in Salinas appeared at the meeting carrying huge maps on which were shown the parts of Ecuador appropriated by Peru in the 1939 war. The Ecuadorian doctors might go to the meeting twirling shrunken heads of Peruvian soldiers on their watch chains. Allerton had found an article about the heroic fight put up by Ecuador's wolves by the sea. They're what? That's what it says, Lobos del Mar. It seems that one officer struck by his gun, even though the mechanism was no longer operating. Sounds simple-minded to me. They decided to look for a boat in Las Playas. La Playas was cold and the water was rough and muddy and drearily middle-class resort. The food was terrible, but the room without meals was almost the same as full pension. They tried one lunch, a plate of rice without sauce, without anything. Allerton said, I am hurt. A tasteless soup with some fibrous material floating in it that looked like soft white wood. The main course was nameless meat as impossible to identify as to eat. Lee said, "The cook has barricaded himself in the kitchen. He is shoving the slop out through a slot." The food was, a matter of fact, passed out through a slot in a door from a dark, smoky room where, presumably, it was being prepared. They decided they could go on to the Salinas the next day. That night, Lee wanted to go to bed with Allerton, but he refused, and the next morning, Lee said he was sorry he asked so soon after the last time, which was a breach of contract. Allerton said, "I don't like people who apologize at breakfast." Lee said, "Really, Jean, aren't you taking an unfair advantage? Like someone was junk sick and I don't use junk? I say, sick, really? I don't know why you tell me about your disgusting condition. You might at least have the decency to leave it to yourself if you are sick. I hate sick people. You must realize how distasteful it is to see you sneezing and yawning and retching. Why don't you go someplace where I don't have to look at you? You have no idea how tiresome you are, or how disgusting. Have you no pride?" Allerton said, "That isn't fair at all. It isn't supposed to be fair, just routine for your amusement, containing a modicum of truth. Hurry and finish your breakfast. We'll miss the Salinas bus." Salinas had a quiet, dignified air of an upper-class resort town. They had come in the off-season. When they went to swim, they found out why this was not the season. The Humboldt Current makes the water cold during the summer months. Allerton put his foot in the water and said, "It's nothing but cold," and refused to go. Lee plunged in and swam for a few minutes. Time seemed to speed up in Salinas. Lee would eat lunch and lie on the beach. After a period that seemed like an hour, or at most 2 hours, he saw the sun low in the sky, 6 o'clock. Allerton reported the same experience. Lee went to Quito to get the information on the Yagi. Allerton stayed in Salinas. Lee was back 5 days later. Yagi is also known to the Indians as ayahuasca, scientific name Banisteria capi. Lee spread the map out on the bed. "It grows in high jungle in the Amazon of the Andes. We will go on to Puyo. This is the end of the road. We should be able to locate someone there who can deal with the Indians and get to the Yagi." They spent all night in Guayaquil. Lee got drunk before dinner and slept through a movie. They went back to the hotel to go to bed and get an early start in the morning. Lee poured himself some brandy and sat down on the edge of Allerton's bed. "You look sweet tonight," he said, taking off his glasses. "How about a little kiss, huh?" "Oh, go away," said Allerton. "Okay, kid, if you say so. There's plenty of time." Lee poured some more brandy in his glass and lay down on his bed. "You know, Jean, not only have they got poor people in this jerkwater country, they also got, like, rich people. I saw some on the train going up to Quito. I'd expect they keep up a plane revved up in the backyard. I can see them loading television sets and radios and golf clubs and tennis rackets and shotguns into the plane, and then trying to boot a prize Brahma bull in on top of the other junk. So the wind-up is the plane won't get off the ground. It's a small and stable, undeveloped country. Economics set up exactly the way I figured. All raw material, lumber, food, labor, rent very cheap. All manufactured goods very high because of import duty. The duty is supposed to protect Ecuadorian industry. There is no Ecuadorian industry. The production here, the people who can produce won't produce because they don't want any money tied up here. They want to be ready to pull out right now with a bundle of cold cash, preferably US dollars. They are unduly alarmed. Rich people are generally frightened. I don't know why. Something to do with a guilt complex, I imagine. Quien sabe? I have not come to psychoanalyze Caesar, but to protect his person. At a price, of course. What they need here is a security department to keep the underdog under. Yes, said Allerton. We must secure uniformity of opinion. Opinion? What are we running here? A debating society? Give me 1 year and the people won't have any opinions. Now just follow a line here, folks, for your nice tasty stew of fish heads and rice and oleomargarine. And over here for your ration of free lush laced with opium. So if they're the line, we jerk the junk out of the lush and they're all lying around shitting their pants too weak to move. An eating habit is worst habit you can have. Another angle is malaria, a debilitating affliction tailor-made to water down the revolutionary spirit. Lee smiled. Just imagine an old humanist German doctor. I say, well, Doc, you done a great job here with malaria. Cut the incidence down almost to nothing. Ach, yes. We do our best, is it not? Do you see this line in the graph? The line shows the decline in the sickness in the past 10 years since we commenced with our program. Yeah, Doc, now look. I want to see that line go back where it came from. Ugh! This you cannot mean. And another thing, see if you can't import an especially debilitating strain of our hookworm. The mountain people always immobilized by taking their blankets away, leaving them with the enterprise of a frozen lizard. The inside wall to Lee's room stopped about 3 feet from the ceiling to allow for ventilating the next room, which was an inside room with no windows. The occupant of the next room said something in Spanish. Lee should be quiet. Ah, shut up, said Lee, leaping to his feet. I'll nail a blanket over that slot. I'll cut off your fucking air. Do you breathe with my permission? Sorry. You only breathe with my permission. You're the occupant of an inside room, a room without windows, so remember your place and poverty-stricken mouth. A string of chingas and cabrones replied. Hombre, Lias, ¿a dónde está su cultura? Let's hit the sack, said Allerton. I'm tired. And that was Chapter 8 of Queer. Thank you much for listening all the way to the end. If you like this, you know the drill. Up to you. Alright? Thank you very much. Bye now.